Greetings and welcome to another episode of I Survived Youth Group in the 90s. I'm your host, Scott, and with me as always is my trusty sidekick, Caleb. Caleb, how are you this afternoon?
Good. I prefer the term producer because,
Oh,
that sounds more important than sidekick.
sorry, I didn't I didn't mean to, you're Robin to my Batman.
Yeah,
Uh,
I am Nightwing. If I'm going to be a Robin, I'm
oh,
Nightwing. Oh, we are
jeez.
really off on a tangent here.
You all can't see this, but I really just made Caleb mad. He's really pissed.
I'm going to get beat to death by the Joker with a crowbar? What are we saying?
Settle down, that's for your other podcast. But no, we're back today to talk about the experience growing up as youth group kids in the 90s and how that has shaped our adult lives. We'll talk to old friends about their faith journeys spanning from the 90s to today and discuss current cultural topics through the lens of someone who grew up during that era. Caleb, tell us, who's our guest today?
Great person that we were super involved with in youth group for a long time. I actually went to college with her briefly as well. Jakki.
Jakki was great to have on. Longtime friend. Her and I served on multiple leadership teams throughout our time there, and kind of a theme that we've uncovered a little bit is that at least we've talked to so far, after they graduate from high school, after they're in college, they're still there.
Yeah.
Jakki still works at the church, which is cool.
Yeah, it was really, really cool to talk to her about that experience. And yeah, you're right. A lot of people we've talked to so far, all of them found their way back to, so far that we've talked to, have all found their way back to not just youth group, but Five Oaks' youth.
hmm They're serving as leaders in a different capacity and doing a great job. So we had a great time talking with her. The reminiscing was quite fun. And she did bring up some things, games and stuff that I had completely forgotten about. And it's kind of like, well, this is why we're talking, because
Exactly.
some of that stuff, as we may have mentioned on other episodes, let's say push the envelope quite a bit.
Yeah, no, it was great. It was that when she said it too. This has been the second time that somebody said something. You did one, and now Jakki did one where I had totally forgot about it, and it was kind
hmm
of like little fireworks, like little synapses in my brain just started firing. Like, oh my gosh, I do remember that, and now it's so clear to me, and I
Yeah.
cannot believe that happened, and I cannot believe I forgot about it.
Right, right. It's part of life to keep us mentally healthy. We have forgotten about it, but
That's all this podcast really is to
it's
make sure
therapy.
both of us don't go senile.
It's therapy. But what from that similar topic, like I appreciated and didn't expect to talk about this, but like her perspective on how things have changed as being a leader now, what you can and can't do,
Yeah.
what is acceptable, what's not acceptable. Obviously, there are some things that probably shouldn't have done or are no longer acceptable, right? And then, there are things where we've this day and age you got to draw a pretty strict line for good reasons. So that was kind of a fun part to be like, oh yeah, that's operationally things have to change.
I thought that was really, really insightful. Why? And I think it actually helped highlight why maybe so much of this has stuck with us
Hmm.
because, and maybe it feels like, and who knows what, your kids will experience, her kids will experience, my kids will experience, but it does feel different. I go to youth group with my kids just to be there because it's a long enough drive where I just hang around the building and it feels differently. It does not feel the same. And she really nailed why some of that is, I think. It was
hmm
really interesting to hear.
Yeah, yeah, it was a cool part of the conversation. So,
Yeah.
Jakki, we really appreciate you joining us. We thank you for the time you gave us, and we hope you enjoy Jakki's story and this episode. Thanks for listening.
Hi, this is Caleb, the producer of the show, just breaking in like I do every episode to remind everyone that the views and opinions expressed on this show may not actually be held or even approved of by everyone appearing on this episode. One of the goals of this show is to give everyone a safe space to share their opinions and thoughts on deeply personal matters of faith. We are not looking to start an argument, but instead let people share how they feel. We also know that our memories of events that happened 25 to 30 years ago may not be 100% accurate. We assume everyone's best intentions as they share how they remembered the experience of their youth. Now, back to the show.
Okay, we are here today with Jakki. Jakki, how are you? It is very, very good to see you.
Good to see you guys too, and I'm good.
Good, good. Thanks for joining us, Jakki. And you were at part of the youth group for basically as long as I can remember. So, how many years were you a youth at Five Oaks?
I would say I probably started going, I got invited to youth group probably 1996, probably that fall of 1996, and pretty regular after that.
Hmm.
And then just continued on until I'm still in the youth group to a certain degree, as far as like because I'm a leader.
They let you graduate, right? Oh, okay. Yes.
I lead a freshman girls group and stuff like that, and have for a long time. So I've I have run the whole show.
So you're pushing what, 30 years almost? 25, 30 years. That's amazing.
There's times where when my kids were younger and stuff like that, just having to take step backs or prioritize my family and stuff like that. But for the most
Hmm.
part, yeah, it's through multiple youth pastors and students, and yeah, I've been around.
I
That's
like
great.
that idea. You've outlasted multiple youth pastors.
There's a common denominator here. So, how tell us the story. Like, how did you get involved? Like, what drew you to it? What was your kind of home life going into it? And, like, why did you stay involved? And really, consequently, why did you stay after and continue on there now as an employee?
hmm Well, I got invited by Leah. She was a mutual friend that started going there. Got invited by her. I was at the time going to a smaller church in St. Paul Park. And I think what really drew me into Five Oaks is that I got to go to a church youth group and I saw them, all my friends at high school, like going to that small
Mm.
church in St. Paul Park. Nobody really went to Woodbury. There wasn't a lot of kids my own age. And so the big draw was like, I can see these people not only at youth group, but at high school. And that's pretty cool, And I thought that, yeah, that was probably one of the bigger pieces for me.
Mhm.
Yeah. And just the sense of community that was there that I was probably missing at the other church.
That's great. Yeah, I mean, a big draw is the friends. So if you can't see them all the time, totally get it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And you and Leah, who invited you, and a few other friends did like things outside of youth group through high school and things. So you were on the cheerleading team and all that stuff. Like,
Yeah.
so you're doing a lot together.
Yeah. So we were cheerleaders, and, it was just, I mean, Leah invited like probably half the high school. Let's just be honest. And so like it just grew, and yeah, we did stuff outside of youth group and cheerleading and other things, and it just made it to be almost this natural progression to want to do life together in that
Hmm.
aspect too.
Do you see that in the kids now that you're working with? Are they very much like
Mm,
in the group they're in at youth group is the same group they're with at high school?
Um, it ebbs and flows. It depends on the class. It depends on the year. I would say we're in very much so a rebuilding phase after COVID.
Hmm.
That was really hard. I would not say like we were, and
Mm.
just that we were so close and we did so like I don't hear a lot of students hanging out together outside of youth group like I think we did, like on the
Oh.
weekends and stuff like that. Not as much as we did, but
Hmm. Yeah, I was like, you guys were like my only. You're the only ones willing to be my friend. So it's like that's all. That's all I could hang out. The only people I could hang out with. So.
right. And they do like my daughter right now is a senior in youth group, and she's gone up through the system, through the 4 years and stuff like that. And it's not like they totally care about each other. They did a missions trip this past summer, but it's just different. Like I can't really
Hmm.
place why or put my finger on it why it is. It's just there's a difference to it. Like, they have their own community and stuff like that, but it's like, I don't know. There's something missing,
A little bit less connection.
Yeah. But I mean, it's still good. It's just not what it was.
Well, it's interesting that you've continued to work there, and not only continue to work there just at the church, but it sounds like with the youth group as well. So you've seen it change over time. And then your daughter going through it, right? You saw her, got whatever capacity that was for you, you got to see her walk through it. So, like, could you see in her how things had changed since you were a kid in that group?
Yeah, I think like our time in the youth group, I just felt like it was so special because Five Oaks was very much so in this amazing growth stage. Lots of new people, we met at the high school. We were just in this phase of just is excitement, Five Oaks now is a pretty established church. And so there's kind of like, I don't know how to describe it. It's not like there's not an excitement around it, but we don't have like all the students sitting together anymore in an area of the church and taking up like half the service. We don't have that. And so it felt like our youth group was an intricate part of the church. And not that it's not important now, but it's like you just felt like you're a part of something so much bigger, and it was so unique in that aspect. And not that, I mean, the church definitely has a part to play in where our youth are. The youth have our part to play at where Five Oaks is right now, but it's not the same. It doesn't have, almost like that excitement to it,
Sure. That youthful energy is like I remember you, now that you say it, like I remember like we would all sit together on Sunday mornings, and there'd just be like a big group of us in the front.
Yeah.
And even going back to when Caleb was starting up, like part of what we've talked about is there were a lot of kids, and sometimes it was more or equal to the amount of adults there.
Right. It was a lot of teenagers. There was a certain amount of ownership that I feel like we had in the church that I don't think a lot of students have now. And I mean, I can be wrong, but it just felt like we were a part of something. For me, it felt like I was a part of something bigger. And not that kids don't feel that way now, but like when you are such a presence and it is felt, it gives you, like ownership in the church,
That's a good word for it.
Feels like some of that energy comes from too, like, because Jakki, your parents didn't come to Five Oaks, right?
No.
And Scott, your parents didn't. So like even that leads to us sitting together because half the kids who are showing up on Sundays don't have parents there. So my parents were like, well, yeah, we're not going to make you sit with us. Go sit with your friends who are all clumped down there. I mean, I think even some of that brings some of that energy where it's just that's such a unique experience that, and Mike and Bill and Leah's parents didn't come to Five Oaks, did they? So, I mean, Leah, we can just go through. I'm the only one that we can name off. I mean, it's just
weirdo.
That contributes. Yeah, exactly. I'm the problem.
It's and a lot of the students that do go now, parents go, and it's just, I think that's just how generally like this whole thing evolves. Not that kids aren't inviting their friends, because I know Grace, my oldest, she her freshman year invited a good friend of hers from high school, Abby, and she got involved. Her parents don't go to church, and now they go to church, and they went on mission trip together, intricate part of the church youth group now. So it's not like it's not happening. It's just not as, the volume isn't there as much as it used to be, And so it's just different.
it's going to change over time, especially as, a church like Five Oaks grows. It's just not
Mhm.
a situation where they stay stagnant forever, but it's a different phase, and there's nothing wrong with that.
Mhm.
Nothing wrong with that at all. What did faith look like for you in the 90s? Like, how do you remember yourself as a, Christian grown up, 16, 17 in that group at that time?
I would say like faith for me was just a roller coaster.
Hmm.
Like my mom was a believer, my dad was not, living in just how I was raised and growing up and stuff like that. It was a lot of fun. It was, but at the same time, like I felt like I didn't have that support system at home. And so I would go to church and then coming
Hmm.
home, like it was trying to live in two different worlds sometimes,
Mm,
you know. At church, like at Five Oaks, I felt so valued and so good about myself. And like these people really genuinely cared about me. And not that my parents didn't, but it just felt good. And
hmm
I really felt like that fellowship, you know. I think, would I say like my faith was super deep? Probably not. Like I think there were times where there probably could be more growth on my part. I wish, looking back, I wish I would have taken. So the thing about Five Oaks that I loved and I look back on is there was lots of opportunities for growth. There was discipleship. There was a lot of those adults were willing to like pour their lives into you, you know. And we had,
hmm
we would work on scripture and stuff like that. And I just feel like I should have taken advantage of that more. I wish I would have done that. It shaped a lot, I think, of where I'm at now. And there was just a passion for Jesus and for where I was in my faith, but also a lot of insecurity in there too, because just am I doing this the right way? When I was in high school and even now, like, I'm a people pleaser, and
Hmm.
I just grew from that. A lot of my things that I did was
hmm
from that point of view. And was I doing what I really wanted to, or was I just making whoever the leader was happy at the time? You know?
hmm
And so there's a lot of that, and just insecurity of like, am I doing the right things? Is my faith my own, or am I trying to make people happy? You know?
hmm As we get older, we kind of realize some of those things that were going on that we were not old enough or smart enough to know exactly how to put words to it.
Mm-hmm.
But you know yourself a little bit more now. Is there like a certain event or a certain teaching that like really sticks with you? Something that you just either still cling on to or remember very vividly, learning about or being at?
Gosh, I mean,
Try and choose one.
I know,
There's so
right?
many.
There is so many. I mean, because like when I was also on like student leadership team when
hmm
I was in high school, which is something we don't have anymore in youth
mm
group currently. And just really through that, really learning how to witness and reach out to kids in my school with my faith, and being
hmm
bold in my faith. Did I do it all the time right? Probably not, but just, feeling confident in that. And I mean, I remember meeting at the farmhouse, I think it was like Sunday mornings before church for our meetings, and starting out in
Absolutely.
prayer and stuff like that. And I learned so much about how to be a leader currently from back then,
Well,
and
that's cool.
things that I currently pull from back in that time that I currently use even still today, and helping me reach to the girls that I'm trying to minister to and stuff like that. So
Can you give us an example of what something that sticks we continue to do? Because that's a really cool answer.
I remember when I was in student leadership, one thing the youth pastor said was like, it's not just like talking face to face to kids. It's like giving them calls throughout the week, letting them know that you're thinking about them, that you're checking in on them. I still do that. I don't want to text. I will call the person up and be like, hey, you haven't been at youth group for a couple of weeks. Hey, is everything okay? Like not just being there on a Wednesday, and that was one thing that John really emphasizes, that like we need to take this outside of the Wednesday thing and, move it into other parts. And so that's one thing that I really do try to take, is letting these kids know that I'm not just a Wednesday face. Like I care about them and I want to do life with them, and help them. And just that there needs to be like a genuineness to it. And that's one thing that I really took away. Like, yeah, it's not just a Wednesday thing. You need to be invested on the other Mondays and Tuesdays and be there.
That's awesome. I don't remember that specifically from leadership group, because you and I were on leadership group for a few years together.
Yeah.
I remember plenty, but yeah, Sunday mornings and hauling off to church, then to sit together. It was a whole thing. And then like lunch afterwards.
And taking kids out, and that is
Yep.
taking kids out to spend time with them, and calling them. And even as an upperclassman, when we were seniors, that was the expectation. I have had conversations with my daughters, who Grace is a senior, Julia is a sophomore, and the thing that I really try to impress on them, that was impressed on me at that time, was, especially Grace, you are a senior. And yes, it's so fun to hang out with all your senior friends, but you also have this rare opportunity to pour into these underclassmen, to reach out to them, to mentor them, and so during youth group, like there was so many times, like in youth group, like, or an event, we were not allowed to sit down and talk and hang out with each other. Like
Nope.
we had to go and we had to make the social rounds,
Yep.
and we had to search out the quiet ones and the ones that were lonely, or the ones that were by themselves. And I tell that to the girls that I lead. I tell that to my own girls. And I even try to do it, like, yeah, if I'm at youth group and there's like a kid sitting off in the corner, you go out there and you like put yourself out there because they need it, and it's going to make you uncomfortable. And then, the other thing is that I've always, like, we're not meant to be comfortable. We are supposed to be doing things that make us uncomfortable and help us grow, and it's not a bad thing.
That is a fantastic answer. It's why we're talking. That's why I want to do this.
Great. And it is something that I still think, like, even though, yes, it has been, like 30 years, 20 years or whatever, that these things kids still need now. They need to feel included. They need to feel like that upperclassman is, like, how cool is that? The seniors talking, and stuff like that. And it's, nobody wants to feel left out. And kids need to feel important, and you also need to teach them to be intentional with this stuff, because it is not something that they're just going to do, because it makes them uncomfortable. Those cold conversations, it's not, it's not something that you know how to do. You have to kind of teach them how to do it. And then once you do it over and over and over again, you become confident in it.
I do remember, as you're bringing this up, just being jealous from time to time, being like, dude, I just want to like go goof around with Caleb or whoever,
Right. Right.
I was jealous of it, right? And also too, like, my son is 12, but he's a old 12. He's in 7th grade already, so it's like he looks up to the older kids, and I can already kind of see that in him, and the ones that are friendly to him, he's like, oh, they're so cool. What kids need never changes. But even like, this is a little bit of a ramble, sorry, but like even the bit about like having conversations with somebody who's like quiet or trying to open somebody up, that's a real life skill, and yeah, there might be some introverted kids that are like, just stay away, but you kind of can read that, we were never like, I don't think John ever wanted us to be like overly obnoxious or anything.
No.
But, try and break Caleb sometimes. But yeah, I you're 17 years old. You're that way. You're obnoxious anyway.
I was going to say I was already kind of already obnoxious, so it wasn't much of a stretch to
It was
make
very
me be
natural
obnoxious.
for
Yeah.
you. Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
Well, good on you for continuing a lot of that leadership and then teaching the kids today to do that. That's super cool. What do you see as like something that's changed for you? Positive, negative, doesn't, it have to be super specific, but like now, we're 25 years later, what are some things that have kind of changed or maybe you've gone away from, you think about differently, or you've matured into here in the last couple decades?
I think one of the biggest things, because like growing up and when I was in high school and youth group, I horribly plagued by anxiety. You know,
Hmm.
depression, just not really sure. Being insecure, not knowing where I fit in. Like all the things that I think a lot of teenagers struggle with now today, if not worse, because of all the
Hmm.
other stuff. I wish I would have had more of the attitude like, I don't care what people think. I was so like, this person's so mad at me. Like
Hmm.
I was so concerned with what everybody else thought about me and how I was coming out, how I was like people were seeing me and stuff like that. Like I just wish, not that I wasn't like ever say I wasn't myself, but just a lot of anxiety about that kind of stuff, and just that it's okay to fail. It's okay to not everybody like you. It's, I don't know, just knowing, just being okay with that, and knowing that it's not my job to make everybody happy. It goes with that people pleaser piece.
Yeah. Yeah.
And even now, like that is something that I think I have grown a lot in. Is like, I'm not going to make everybody happy, and I've really tried to curb that people pleaser side of me, and just, I don't know, my faith is for sure my own now,
Mm.
and there's, I don't know, I can't quite explain it, but there's just a peace with it. Like I feel like when you're like in high school and stuff like that, you have doubts, you have internal struggles with it. And I remember feeling so guilty about those doubts or those questions and stuff like that. And now I'm more of like, you know what? Let's hash this out. Let's talk about this. Let's think about that. Like,
Mm.
me and you, God, we're going to go head to head on this one. And I don't feel guilty about it. Like, I don't know,
Mm.
just more of a confidence in my belief and in myself that
Hmm.
I wish I would have had in high school. I faked it, but it really wasn't there.
I was gonna say you seem fine, super confident. What I hear you saying that I resonate with is I have doubts and I have these things that like they'll come up from time to time and you got to wrestle with. Now that we're in the real world as adults, air quotes are on both those things. But you have a trust and a faith in the end game, right? And so like you're okay going through some of the ups and downs of questioning, which we may have not had the best space to do that in before, not
Mm-hmm.
because it was necessarily outlawed, but because we were doing so much other stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
We were just constantly involved. But you have a faith that in the end game, the what you believe in is something true and life changing,
Mm-hmm.
even though it might, feel differently from time to time.
Right. And that there is, there's in your relationship with God and in your faith, it ebbs and flows. There's going to be times where you feel totally connected, and there's going to be times when you feel disconnected. And, like it's okay. It's okay to have those questions. It's okay to have those struggles.
Mhm.
Does that mean that you're not a Christian? No. Does that mean like you don't have a faith? No. It just means that you need to, go toe to toe to God with it. Like don't be afraid of that.
Yeah, there is a sense of do not fear. Absolutely. Is there anything looking back on our experience that you just kind of like cringe at or struggle with? I mean, obviously, we're gonna cringe at, you know, what was the video we made, Caleb, with the discipleship group, and we just like watched it a billion times.
Oh my gosh.
Like we're if we that was thank God there was no YouTube. But like, if there was, that would be cringy, right? But like, yeah, like, is there something you look back on and you're just like, oh, that's a little bit too much.
Right. Actually, me and Mike were talking about this on Sunday. Like, okay, so this might, I don't know. I have come to really not like that term. I care about where you are 10 years from now, or whatever
Oh,
he would say.
yeah.
I've come to like have kind of a love-hate relationship with it, where I'm like, ugh.
So to be clear for our listener, the one person listening,
Thanks,
what,
Mom.
yeah, what Jackie is talking about is our youth pastor would often tell us, I don't care where your faith is at now so much as I care where it's at 10 years from now.
Yeah. I get it. I get the message behind it. I get what he was saying. But in order to get 10 years from now, you do have to be invested in the present. Like, you have to care about what's going on in the present. Like, these are times, like, with students, like, they have so many questions, and their world is so open to them. And yeah, I do want to know where you're at. Where is your faith now? Like, and I care about it, because this is how we start up, like, building that groundwork, building up that foundation of why do you believe in what you believe in? Yes, of course I care 10 minutes. I pray for you for 10 years, but right now we are going to deal with the here and now, I might not know you 10 years from now, but I know you now here. You are in front of me, and we are going to have these hard conversations, So that where I get it. But I do think, like, you got to care about it all. You can't just pick and choose what you're going to care about,
To be clear, I do think our youth pastor definitely cared about us in the
Yes, and I'm not.
Yeah, it's not like he was just like flipping about where we were at now. But what I hear you saying, Jackie, is like, hey, kids are kind of going through stuff right now.
Right.
Let's try and help them work through that, so that in 10 years.
If you're going to say that to a group of students, you never know how that's going to land on somebody.
Yeah.
Not that I didn't think, like, he absolutely cared about where we were, but I just know, like, it just still just is, it's cringy, The other thing, like, God doesn't want you lukewarm, he will spit you out of his mouth, or whatever, like that he said all the time, and I was like, ugh, that's just whatever. Like, it's so, like, I mean, yeah, like, there's that Bible verse about it, but it's so harsh. Like, it just doesn't sit. Now looking back, and I was like,
there's a difference of being motivated by what you would, responding to something like grace, right, as opposed to being motivated by guilt or fear. Like,
right.
I am, like you were saying, like, I kind of understand the impetus here is like, you shouldn't be halfway, you shouldn't have this, but like,
right,
almost what you're kind of speaking about, like, in the moment, kids are going through a lot of stuff.
Right.
Especially in high school, they're guilty about almost everything. At least I was. And so, like, to kind of keep that on there, you're always looking for a place where you may be lukewarm. And it's like, man, I'm just, and my wife says it very clearly and very plainly, like, people are often just doing the best they can.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think about it, like, when I think about that statement, I think about, like, kids are so scared of rejection. And if you're not on fire, then God is going to get rid of you. Like, that is just what I think about. Like, it's just this rejection. And I just don't think, like, it's scary. And it's like, it's like trying to shock somebody into believing. And I don't know, because I think it makes you scared to really examine those parts of your doubt then. Like, I can't doubt. I can't have these moments where I feel lukewarm, because God's going to spit me out of his mouth. Like, it builds shame, shame and doubt. And it's hard to resolve that stuff,
I think it's a great observation, because you talked about that idea of, like, Five Oaks feeling so welcoming, and like, it felt like you knew your parents loved you, but there was just this overwhelming sense of belonging when you came to Five Oaks. So, like, that juxtaposition I said it again wrong, Scott. Juxted. I am really good at the English language, but that difference really then shines through when you're feeling like this. Oh, do you care about me in this moment, or do I have to prove myself? Like that's a really interesting observation, just especially considering kind of how warm and how connected you felt to that community at Five Oaks. I think that's a great observation about that comment. I have never thought about it that way. That's really interesting.
Same. So now being, in adulthood and having a family and everything, those are major life events, obviously. Like, is there an event, like a super impactful event that's really shaped who you are as an adult that happened kind of after youth group, but you experience and see it through the lens of what we had in the 90s, like, birth of kids, whatever. I mean, what happened in adulting that kind of, harkened back to what happened when we were kids.
So, like, I think, and this is just me, I'm just going to be totally vulnerable and honest. So after I had my second, Julia, I had postpartum depression with all of my kids, really bad. But with Julia, I had to get hospitalized because I was kind of a danger to myself. I was just not good. I had issues with medication being changed. So I was in like a psych ward for a while. And doing that, that's probably one of the moments that has solidified my faith with God, because I'm in a room by myself. I'm away from my baby. I'm away from my husband. I have never felt more alone and scared in my whole entire life. And I just remember being in that room, and because they lock you in at night. And I just remember being like, God, I really need you right now. If you are here, if you are really who you say you are, and through your scripture, I need some peace. And I swear, like, it sounds crazy, but like the room felt warmer. Like this peace and comfort that fell on me that night, like I don't know how to describe it. It was unbelievable,
Supernatural.
Yeah, supernatural. I was like, I will not doubt, because he met me there. And he was like, and his presence like spoke to me and just gave me comfort. And I mean, I was out like the next day, and I just know that like God meets us when we're at our lowest, if we truly and genuinely reach out for him. And so that's probably one of the really, really big moments in my life where I was like, this, because you always have like, you have your doubts, you have your things, but like, I just know, like, that was probably one of the biggest turning points in my walk, because I was like, okay, this is not just words on a page. This is not just like me feeling a certain way or not feeling a certain way. Like, it's real,
That's thank you for sharing that. That's an amazing story, and we're glad you're okay, and that God got you out of there the way that he did. So I think that's amazing, like, because like, yeah, when we're kids and when we're youth, there's a lot of hard stuff happening.
Yeah.
But when hard stuff happens, when you're, trying to raise a family and all that stuff, like it can be, the stakes are higher, right? I'm fully realizing, that story included. It's like, yeah, God may not be in the flashy parts of life. He may be you find him most in the really difficult parts and the dirtiest parts.
Right. And I just think like, gosh, we had like so much fun in youth group. Like, we had so much fun. And I do like to think like when we were in youth group, like we really were like a family to each other, at least that's how I felt. Cause I just felt like I had people to go hang out with when my home life wasn't great. I felt loved. I felt accepted. And I mean, with my own issues and stuff like that, but it was so cool to also have like all these adults pour into us too, that went on these trips with us, that, and I just knew at the time, like, I'm really blessed that I'm able to give back to that now with the kids. It's totally different now. Kids need something that's just reaching them is not as easy as it was when we were kids. Like there's so many distractions, but it was just so fun. I think what's hard now too, though, is as leaders, we have more restrictions than we did like in the 90s. Like some of the games that we played in the 90s, there is no way we would play those now. No way. No way we would get those, like, that just wouldn't happen. There's just, we have challenge coming up this summer.
They still do challenge. Nice.
So we have challenge going up this summer, and, one of the big things is that because we stay in hotels, adults can no longer, probably can't, or it's not okay for them to stay in hotel rooms with kids anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's probably one of the bigger changes too. But then, then these kids, like, who's monitoring what they're doing in hotel rooms? So there is this being above reproach now that with adults, like, you shouldn't full on hug a kid. You do a side hug, like you shouldn't text them after a certain amount at certain time at night, like there's a lot of, you just have to be careful, and there's things that we would probably have never gotten away with back in the 90s that we did, just some of the games and stuff like that. And so in that way, like, I guess, like, I'm kind of sad for them because, like, they just miss out on shenanigans, like there's, like there's
kids won't understand.
Kids don't get it. They don't get it. But also as because like at Five Oaks, I'm the building manager, and there's no way we would be playing some of those games that we played in the church over my dead body. Could you imagine the stains?
Oh, man.
You're the one saying no.
I would never get those carpets cleaned. But like that goofiness and that, like, leads into kids putting their guard down, and just, right. I miss, not that it doesn't have goofiness, because it totally does, but I just miss stupid fun. I miss stupid. It's just not the same, and
stupid fun's pretty great.
Stupid fun's the best, and like nobody pranks anybody anymore. Nobody, like you can't prank anybody anymore. Like you just, I don't know. They're all a bunch of weenies.
We TP'd John's house like multiple times.
Oh, I know. And we can't TP anybody's house anymore because of stupid Ring.
The Ring doorbell.
It's
because you're going to get caught. I get it. That makes sense. Yeah, you get it because you get caught. Yeah.
There's this element of, just silliness, I think, that it just isn't the same. It's planned silliness. That's not as fun.
You use the word guarded. I think that's a great word. I can see that. I have teenagers.
Yeah.
And there is a guardedness that I don't feel like I had, especially at youth group. I probably had it around my parents, but not at youth group. That's for sure. I was feel like I was a pretty open. I was pretty out there, and I think we all were. I think we were all just so into it. Like, this is what you do, because you're supposed to be out there at youth group. So yeah, guarded's a great word.
At least for us, it was a safe space where we could be ourselves. That's not everybody's experience, and maybe not everybody's experience within Five Oaks, but like once you kind of give a kid that spot where they can be themselves, and you're not going to judge them, or at least not to their face, but like you're going to give them that bandwidth, right? Then just let them go.
I was a leader at Challenge 2 years ago, and I mean, we had a super, super good time, and it was fun and stuff like that. But it's just, I don't know. There's like, yeah, there is like a little bit of a goofiness that is missing. Although we stayed in Airbnbs, and because we didn't have that many students that were going, and they did play that tortilla game where they slap each other with their tortilla with a mouthful of water, and that was pretty funny. I enjoyed that a lot.
The first time I saw that, I was like, "That is a youth group game."
Yes.
Just some youth pastor
Yes.
invented that.
Oh my gosh, I should send you the video because it's funny because it's 2:00 in the morning and we're all sleep deprived, and it's just hilarious, but on the same time, like the kids now that with their faith, the kids that are strong in their faith or just really taking it on their own, you can tell they're not doing it to check off a box. They're not doing it to impress anybody. They are like, this is what I believe, and there's a genuineness to it, and it's real, and it's exciting because there's so many different paths that you guys have teenagers, so many different options, so many different things now, and just, it's hard. It's really hard to be a teenager now. Not that it wasn't for us, but I mean, thank God there wasn't social media when we were teenagers,
Mm-hmm. You can see that you can see it through our lens a little bit of, yeah, it was tough, but it's different tough, and, I feel for them,
Right.
my kid didn't get a phone until this past Christmas, and it's just kind of changed everything. And I can already tell, like, you got to stay away from the comparing to other people's stuff. That's
Oh my
worse
gosh.
than it's ever been.
It is so divisive, and it is, I mean, I don't know. Everybody knows everything about everybody, but I think that's preventing them from connecting on the level that we connected on, because we didn't have like text and we didn't have Instagram. We had to get together to make those moments, and to share. We had to actually be in the room with each other to share our lives with each other. Kids don't have to do that anymore.
Mm-hmm.
They can share their lives with whoever, and I just don't think there's that much of a need to make those connections because they have it just in their hand.
So I was talking to a coworker of mine about this subject a little bit, and she has a daughter who just went to college this past fall. And she told me that she's talking to her daughter like, "Hey, are you making friends or whatever?" "Nah, people don't really hang out." I'm like, "What?"
Mm-mm.
Like, and she was like, and my coworker was like, "Don't they like get together with your corridor and go do stuff and hang out at night and watch movie, all this stuff?" She's like, "No, everybody's just in the room texting. So they like meet each other, and then they go back to their rooms and they're communicating on their phones with a wall between them, right?" Which maybe that's an extreme example and things would change over time. But she was even like, "Yeah, my daughter tells me that kids go to the cafeteria and get their food and bring it back to their room. They need it there, and they're not even hanging out at the cafeteria or whatever." It's like, man, I'm not saying it's all bad. It feels super different. It's like, oh, you're missing an opportunity to create memories and friendship.
Right. And just like learn to interact with another person, and because that is just it's not happening very much with students. And it's even hard, not like challenge. We wanted to take away all the cell phones. We want to be like, you cannot, you don't have to live with it. You will be okay. You're just engage with the week. And we honestly, we had to give them back because we were so nervous about losing somebody, like, how do we get a hold of them again?
Mm-hmm.
Parents were wanting kids to have their cell phone. Like, it was so hard. And we just had to give it back to them with the understanding that if we are in like a conference, if I see your cell phone, I'm taking your cell phone.
Right.
So there was still parameters around it, but eventually it was just, I don't know. I don't remember like when we went to challenge, if we lost somebody, we lost somebody.
They'd show up somewhere.
I just think that's how it was. We gave them to whoever it was at Colorado. Here, you get, student.
Depending on who it was, sometimes it was good. We're glad we lost you.
That's on you, dude.
Yeah.
You're gonna fall away from the fold. That's on you.
Very symbolic of their faith, or you're going to follow. So we've taken a lot of your time And we really appreciate it. This has been great. Really good to connect. I like to ask the people that we're talking to, and we only have a few minutes left, but what's like the craziest thing you can remember? You just alluded to it. We can't do some stuff anymore. Like, what's the big one that just jumps out as like that was wild?
It was one, I don't even remember the name of the events that we used to have. Barf night? Barf night.
Barf.
Mm-hmm.
And Barf night. So there was there's two games. I gotta talk about these two games. So there was one game where Caleb, you had peanut butter underneath your armpit and jelly underneath your arm, one of your other armpits. You made a sandwich out of it.
Right.
And I don't know, I can't remember who ate it. Somebody ate it and then threw up in the farmhouse afterwards. Bill? Maybe Bill ate it.
Yeah.
And
I remember that, to say that name.
And I was like, I love me and Mike at church, because me and Mike are like, we still go to the same church. We are in the same small group. And so we love, like, this is like me and Mike on Sundays. It's just like reminiscent of youth group.
Sure.
And so then there was this other one where John had like all like the upperclassmen boys all get in a line with one toothbrush and a cup of water, and they all brush their teeth.
Yes. Oh,
and
Jakki.
Then,
oh my gosh.
And then Jeremy drank the spittle
the
stuff,
thing.
the thing, and I just, that is never gonna fly now. But
oh
how
my
cool,
gosh.
how bad was that? That's next level.
That was terrible.
It's real bad, but it still is just something that I was like, I made a mental note. I'm never kissing that guy. I am never doing it. Over my dead body.
I forgot about those, probably for good reason. Ugh.
You know, like we do some gross stuff now, but nothing like that.
Not drinking a backwash of 10 people.
No, we stick with slapping people in the face with a tortilla.
This alone is why I'm glad we're doing this, Scott. I forgot both of those.
You did?
Those had been totally. I am not a bright bulb, so I have a really bad memory in general, and I don't know if I have totally forgot about that. It's all coming back to me. I remember having the peanut butter and jelly in my armpits. Holy crap, I can't believe that.
And then that's why I was like, it is a barf night. You know, like it was so fun. You know, but like that kind of stuff is going to be like, you're going to get your mom on the phone and be like, my kid, yada, 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 you know. Or when we went to Sunshine and we all got so toasted. We got so burnt. If we did that now, we would be sued. Like, if like a bunch of adults took a bunch of kids and they come back and their lips are 3 sizes too big from being sunburned, you better believe. I'm not saying that John probably did get phone calls or whatever, but like,
yeah, well,
we all like we almost died that Sunshine with just the sun toasting us all. I think specifically you and your Band-Aid face. Do you remember Band-Aid face?
Scott or me?
Scott, he got so
I had it
burnt.
on my head.
Yeah, Scott, I can't believe you remember this. You got so burnt. You blistered all on your face, and you had these fluorescent Band-Aids on your forehead, on your nose, on your cheeks. When we come back that Sunday, and we all just look like we went 10 rounds and lost.
I have zero recollection of that.
It was like we went to Sunshine, and it was on the surface of the sun, and we almost died. We almost died. Caleb, your mom cried when she saw you. She cried.
That's normal, though.
I remember that. I mean, I have had skin cancer since high school, so, you know, maybe I should have sued somebody.
You know, like...
Probably... So some of the scaling back is probably a good thing.
You know, it was fun, you know, like, and maybe like I don't forget about it as much because like I'm still there. Yeah. And like I said, like me and Mike, we lead, we're in the same small group at church. And so we talk about it, and Stephanie brought out one of her photo albums of when we were younger. And I was like, wow, I just think it's so cool that I get to do life, not with everybody, but like with you guys, we can still do life together and we're all really on good terms generally. But like, I still get to go to the same place that in a lot of ways shaped me, and I get to work there, and I get to spend time with the people that have loved me since like I was 16 and still love me, you know? And I don't know how many other students can say that from their youth group experience, you know?
That's fantastic. That's so cool. Exactly why we wanted to have these conversations. So
Did they do everything perfect? There's some things that we can't do now that in hindsight, like just doesn't sit well now, but like you do at the time, nobody was ever malicious in anything, but you know, would we go back and change things? Probably, but it was just like, it was such a good time, you know, and I don't know, it was a lot of fun.
well, we really appreciate you sharing those memories with us and stoking the memories in our brains too, because there's a lot we don't either selectively or unselectively don't remember. But this has been great. Thanks for talking with us. We really appreciate it. Hope we get to talk more than once every 10 years or whatever it's been. So
I do miss you guys, and I miss you guys, and I miss like our friendships, and because it was such a good part of my life. And even outside of youth group, like the Five Iron Frenzy concerts, just doing life with a group of kids that became your family, you know, like I think we were very rare. And I can honestly say, I don't know if I've seen anything along the same lines as when we were. And I'm not trying to be like pandering or anything like that, but I do think what we had was very special and rare, and I hope other people have had it too, you know?
Jakki, we really appreciate you being with us today. This conversation has been excellent.
I miss you guys.
Good to see you.
Good to see you too.
Thanks for listening to this episode of I Survived Youth Group in the 90s. We hope you enjoyed it. Once again, we want to thank Jakki for joining us. It was great to hear from her and not only reminisce, but to hear about the impact her youth group experience has had on her life. It's pretty amazing to hear that she is not only at the same church, but still actively helping out with the same youth group she attended. That feels pretty special. So thanks again, Jakki. Let us know what you thought about this show or any of our other shows. You can find us on Twitter at the handle @SurvivedYG. You can also email us at ISurvivedYouthGroup@gmail.com. If you're interested in being on the show, let us know. You didn't have to attend our youth group, but if you have your own youth group experiences from the 90s or the 2000s, we'd love to connect. Please subscribe and share the podcast. If you're so inclined, leave a rating or review. If you enjoyed this show, you might also enjoy the other podcast I do. It's a music podcast called the Album Anniversary Podcast. Over the last couple of years, I've researched and documented the release date of thousands of albums. Throughout the week, I post about them on social media. We've had a couple different formats on the show, but it's a chance to talk about some of the music I've documented and share from my calendar. Once again, it's called the Album Anniversary Podcast. The music at the beginning and the end of this show is the instrumental version of the song Positive Charge by the Dread Pirate Roberts. Thanks again, and we will talk to you soon.